Hello and welcome to another Outlaw walkthrough. Today we are going to be discussing the types of variables that you can put on an Outlaw template and what their different use cases could be and how to build them into your template. So let's get started. So let's just come in here. This is just one of my test templates that I have. I'm going to start working on the paragraph body because we've talked before, if this is in the paragraph title, like when you first add a new paragraph, it goes automatically to the paragraph title. You can't actually add in a variable, which you do by adding in a bracket first. So you need to make sure that you're in the paragraph body. Then we need to hit the bracket, and let's start with the first variable here. These are your standard variables, and they have a wide range of options. These mean they're actually variables that you're going to put into your template that when you execute it, these will have to be filled in. So these can be things like names, the date, maybe contact information, business information. You can basically put anything into a variable, right? So let's just go ahead and build one. Of course, you can, once you type in your bracket, you can either do a variable, you can select it here, or you can hit the hashtag or pound sign. You can see the one that is already coming up is offices. This is something that I've added onto my template previously. And so that's the only variable I have right now. So that's why it's prompting me to pick that one. But I can also create a brand new variable. So let's go ahead and just call this, let's call it variable. All right, then I'm just going to end my bracket, and you can see now it is glowing purple or highlighted purple. I can click back into my variable and I can notice a few things right off the bat here. You can see here, this is my name that I gave it. If I don't like that name, I can click to rename it right up here and change it. I can also give it a display name. Maybe later down the road, I decided that this is going to be a date variable, and I can also name this, today's date. And that's how that variable will show up. So let's go ahead and update this. Then we can come over here and preview this, and we can see now, instead of saying just variable, this is now called today's date, and I could fill this in. Let's go ahead and get back out of here. But we don't need to, we also don't have to give this a display name. We can just keep it as is. We can also update that. So you'll also notice a couple of things here. I can click this drop down, and if I'm adding in a variable, I have a few different items that are predetermined that I can add in. So it always defaults to a text field. That's the one, anytime you add in a variable, that's what that's going to be. If you need to change it, you can easily come in here and select, a date. Pretty straightforward. You can also come down when it's a date and change how this is going to render essentially and pull in. So you can use prose, verbose, or just like the day of the week and the month. You can also come in here and assign this to somebody. I guess let's go back up here first. So that is all the different ways that you can enter the date. Now, if you, for some reason, had a typical date that you filled this in, this really isn't a good example, but you can add a placeholder here with whatever you want. This is really great maybe if you're using the state list or different things, or maybe a list in general, or maybe a fillable field, maybe a text box or something that you use. And it's typically always the same thing. Maybe it's a company name for the state field. Maybe you're based out of Texas and you're typically always generating documents in Texas, but maybe you have one other office in Arizona and a handful of documents a year, you generate those. So you can actually assign a default value for that. And just like the empty placeholder before it's filled in, you can assign something to be filled in there. So the next thing would be your default value. And kind of what I was saying there is that, you can assign a value that's automatically going to pop up there. And then you can always still change it, whether it be with your list or your states or different things like that. You can also come in here and you can assign this specific variable to a specific party. So we only have one party available on our template at the moment, and this is our signing client. You can see here that this is just pulling in. If I backspace this, you can see that's just the display name. So if I update that and then I come back in here, and this didn't save any of my information, but we can assign it to that client if we would like, Or maybe if there was another party on here, maybe this is actually going to be the person sending out the contract, like a company or something. You can assign them to these different variables here. And we already talked about the date there. So let's go ahead and move on to the next one. It is the number. Obviously, these are going to be integers going across there that you can fill in. You can also display how you want them to be spelled out, 10,000 or just the number version as well. Then we can come here to currency. Same things are going to be available there. We also have percentages that are built in. You have a lot of the same functionality. You can still assign it to a party here. The list variable is pretty awesome because you can actually use this to make conditional variables or conditional values rather. And we talked about this on another video, so definitely be sure to check that out as well. But if we wanted to make a list, maybe it's just as simple as 1, 2, 3. You can see we need to enter our options and it's 1 per line. So it would be 1, 2, hit enter, just put them all down there. Now, this is a really great example where the default value comes into play. Maybe this is a ranking system and you're having somebody fill this out. You're obviously wanting to want to go for, 5 stars or something like that. So we can make the default value be 5. Let's go ahead and update this. Then we can come over here and preview. And you can see here that that is defaulted to 5. I can still click on it and I can still change that at any point too. So that is just what that looks like. And then we can come in here and we can also, there is a predefined one. And this is just a little bit squirrely just because I already had some data in there. So let's go ahead and delete that out. And then we'll move on to the next one. So for this state, it's really awesome because this is already a predefined list of states. It's already built in. If you have FileVine, sometimes you want to build out a whole state dropdown. You actually have to go in and enter those manually, at least the first time, and then you'll have your dropdown here. This is a predefined field that we can pull from and use. So again here, like I was saying, if maybe you have offices in a few different states, but you mostly work out of Texas, we can make this default value Texas. So you can come in here and you can see that this is automatically defaulted to Texas. If I needed to, obviously you can come through here and you can update that, but maybe you do most of your business there. You can also see that we have the District of Columbia. We have our different territories in here. I think there is some at the top. So you have all that functionality built in for the US as well. All right, so let's go back here and move along to our next one. Let's go ahead and clear this guy. All right, next we have our image. So you can actually insert an image variable. This is pretty great if you maybe want to insert a signature, somebody that signs a lot of documents, says it's coming from them. They want their signature block there, but they don't actually have to want to come into Outlaw and sign the document. You can upload a picture of their signature here, or maybe if you wanted to upload another picture. Maybe an example that I've seen before is like the layout of a car and you want to know where the damage is. So, you have like just the kind of top view of a car and then you have little lines going to those. You could draw those out on here and then, you can make variables that reference that area just so that you're able to, kind of fill that in and get a better view of things. So that would be one way that you can use it. Obviously, there's a ton of different ways to use the image, so very customizable as well. The next one is the table. So similar to a list, if you would like to build a table, you can come in here and each individual column is going to be 1 per line. So if I wanted to come in here and say date, maybe provider, and then amount, and let's hit update. You can see now that this automatically makes me a table. And then later when I'm filling out my contract, I can come in here and I can update this with information based on that. So, and then you could just keep adding more and more rows when you do execute this document. So that's what you would do there. So, like I was saying about the contact. So, a lot of people get confused the difference between a contact and a party field. So, the contact field isn't as dynamic. It's basically just a fillable field, similar to like a text box, but it is delineated, meaning it's a contact. Versus a party field, which we can go ahead and add in now because we only have one, is this right down here, and we can add it in obviously by clicking this, or we can just do the at symbol, as if you were tagging somebody in Filevine or maybe social media, something like that. You would just kind of at them. So you can see this is pulling up because this is a variable that we have over here in our parties. So let's just add another one, and we can call this one attorney. And then we just end it with a parenthesis, and you can see that, and sorry, with a bracket, and you can see that this is now blue. So we have our purple variables, which are your variables that you can fill in with your data. And now we have this blue variable that is a person variable. So let's go ahead and click on this one. So the nice thing here is that we can obviously give it a display name too. Maybe we want to call this, lead attorney or something like that, depending on your workflow. We can also choose, because it's a party field, we can choose from a preset list of basically fillable data points that we can put in here. So when you come down through here, you can choose any of these. This is the default at the moment, but maybe we want to put in just their email address. So we can come in here and we can update this. And now that's going to say attorney email, even though you'll notice over here, this is just saying attorney. That's because we went through the actual list and chose their email instead of just using this display default, which if I change it back, it just goes back to attorney. So that's kind of the difference between the contact variable that's fillable and this person field, because you're actually able to choose from, a lot of these different presets depending on what you need for this specific client. So if you needed to put in, not only their legal name, let's go ahead and update that, but say you're also going to need their phone number on this. So we will just go ahead, come in here and add in phone number. So now you can see we have two different variables. Let's go ahead and fill this in. So you can see, legal name and attorney phone. And this is pulling in like it is back here if we take a peek, because I didn't give it a display name, but we could call this, lead attorney name. And then we could call that, its phone number. If we view this, lead attorney name, legal name, right? So lead attorney name, phone. So it's pulling in like that. And that's how you can update that. And that's how you add in a party field. The other thing that we talked about with party fields is you are able to, once you have party fields in your template, you're able to add in signature blocks. And, maybe in this scenario, I only want the client to sign a signature down here. I don't need the attorney. So I can go ahead and get rid of that. And I will only have the client signing, not the attorney. So those are just some things to note with the party variable as well. The next one we have on our list is a secret variable. So this one is really great for sensitive information, maybe things like social security number, bank account, things that, if you were having somebody fill this out in public, if you happen to just send it to them and they're out in public and they're thinking that this is a good time to fill it out, you don't necessarily want that information visible by other people. So you can add in a secret variable. So we can come in here and, same principles apply. We can call this one maybe like account number. Also, if you wanted to leave a space in between there, you can just put that, and we can just add in that last bracket. And now you can see that this is highlighted green, meaning that it's a secret variable. So the nice thing is here, and let's just go ahead. We can give this an empty placeholder maybe. Let's just give it this so that we can see it. Excuse me. You can also assign this to a person as well, now that you have people in your system. And then we just hit update. And now let's go and view this. So the nice thing about this is, and you can I don't know if you can read it right here, but it says this field is securely encrypted and is only viewable and editable by parties on this contract, which is great. And then also we will note, if we just come back here, let's go actually view it on the contract level and see what that would look like. So let's just go back here, navigate to our contracts. I've already started one. If you hadn't already started one, you can start generate from template here, and then you would just choose your template that you would like to see. But let's go ahead and view this one now. And you can see I have all of these different variables that need to be filled in. So let's click into account number, and I'm going to enter my account number here, update. You will see that this is just dots. Now let's go ahead and fill this in as if this was, we were filling this out just so you can see the side-by-side comparison. So we'll do this. All right. And we just need the phone number as well. So you can see when I filled in those variables, obviously we can read them, we can see what we entered in this data, but this one in general, we can't see until we actually click on it. And that's just another, added level of security for those secret variables. So let's go ahead and navigate back to our templates and back to our test template that we were working in. So let's talk about our last variable here. It is the connected variable. Now, if you're not using anything, connected to your Outlaw, might be FileVine or something else, you're not really going to be using these connected variables because there is nothing for it to connect to. But in this case, let's go ahead and say that we are using this connected to our FileVine, and this is how we would add it in. Obviously, you can still click on this, or you can do the +sign FB. And then you will see that I start pulling in all these different fields that are connected to my FileVine back here. So that is how we have, we're pulling in all of this information. Now, if you type in FV and nothing comes up, that means that you have not actually set up your connection here in the settings of your template. A couple things to note here is that you can only connect to one project template at a time. So if you had multiple documents that you needed to connect to multiple of your FileVine templates, you would need to create copies of those and then, link one to this, Outlaw FVDA template and connect the other one to another template in general. And let me just show you here, just because this is just one of the many templates we have in our sandbox, but I could connect it to any of these. It doesn't have to be Outlaw FVDA. It could be your personal injury. It could be your mass tort. It could be any of those things. So you would just connect it that way. Then you would select the section name you want to connect it to. This isn't as important as a step as it would be maybe if you're doing some sort of doc generation in FileVine and having to place your widget. But in this case, you can basically, you can pull in fields from your contact card in FileVine, your static sections, your collection sections. You can pull it all in from one area. So this isn't as important. This is basically just asking you where you're going to want to see that widget connected once you install it in your template, in your FileVine template. So for this one, I had already connected it to the case summary. If I needed to as well, I can add in the proofing ID, which is basically just saying you want to focus on pulling in information from one FileVine project. And so you would just enter the FileVine project ID. And let me just pull over my FileVine so that you can see where we get that from. All right, so we are back in our FileVine project here. And if I wanted to use the specific project case or matter number, I would just come up here, whoops, and I would select this number right here. That's essentially telling me that this is the specific item that I'm going to pull in and then put in this proofing ID. It's also asking me for a meds ID. So if I wanted to use a specific meds item that's over here, because I have a couple, I can come in here and I can pull in the specific medicals item here, just because I already have a meds item connected variable pulled into my test template here. You don't have to add those. That is just an optional step. You mostly just need the project type and the section name. So we'll hit update. Everything is good there. And now I can start pulling in fields. Now you'll notice that some say intake, some say case summary here. Basically how to read this is saying, okay, it's connected to FileVine underscore your section that you want to pull this in from. So if I want to pull in from intake, I can type intake. And then I can also type in my field. Maybe I want to pull in something with injuries or something sustained. And then I can select that. You can also, if you don't want to type in, intake and then that, you can also just start typing in injuries and this should come up as well. So then that's just another way around that. And then you can see here when you add in a FileVine connected variable, it is a teal color, and that is how you know it is ready to go. If it is grayed out or it's red, typically when it's grayed out, it means that you're actually not connected to FileVine yet. And when it's red, it means that maybe that field isn't supported yet in Outlaw, and it's probably not going to pull in data. So, or maybe it's been, deleted or something has happened with that field in FileVine and it's not working correctly. But let's just talk a little bit more about pulling in these different FileVine connected variables. So you can also pull in, this is a contact card. So when you select primary attorney, it's going to have the same names same things kind of as the parties that we already went through, where I can pull in the full name, I can pull in anything that is in this contact card within my test case in FileVine. And so you can pull in stuff from the details tab, anything here. If there's, custom fields built in, you can typically pull those in. Sometimes you're not able to pull in all the custom fields associated with the contact card if you do have a very robust contact card. So it just kind of depends there. But we'll just say we want this one for the full name. And then let's maybe pull in a date information. So something to note, if you want to pull in something that is at a project level, so maybe like the project ID or, incident date or something like that, you actually need to type in project first. So you can see when I select project, I get a drop down of all this other information that is associated with that. So I can pull in the project client, which would pull in, this client right here. This would be Harry Potter in this case that we're pulling in. We can also pull in, information if it's archived, the last activity, the phase, the first primary, different things like that, the case number associated with it, project ID type, like all these different things you can pull in. For this one, let's go ahead and pull in incident date just so you can see what a date looks like as well. So some things to note here, it is prompting you to select how you want this date to pull in. And let's see here, you can choose just the day. You can come in here if you did need, so you can pull in the date like that. Let's also just take a peek at another date here. Let's just pull in, date taken. You can see I have the option to do verbose, and it's going to actually give you a little example here of how it's, going to spell it out if you want to do verbose or if you want to do standard prose, or you can do any of these other options as well. And then your date will actually pull in that way. What else do we have? We also have basically, if you wanted to pull in any variables from FileVine, you still can. If you want to see what a drop down looks like, let's go ahead and pull in accident type. This is our incident type here. So when I come over to my connected variables, I can see that this is pulling in everything from that drop down in FileVine, and I can actually now make conditionalities and everything with that. You can also, pull in these amount paid fields. When you pull these in, it's automatically going to prompt you to either do the numeric display or the spelled out. You have options to pull in most of the field types that are within FileVine. I'll say that you can pull in, let's see, this is a multi-select, and it should be, whoops. You can pull in a multi-select list here. And that will show up. I will say that the multi-select list you can't use as a conditionality. So that's a little bit of a something just to note there when you're building these out, because that often comes up. But you can pull in a single line list, you can pull in a person list, it will pull in, the names. You can also pull in a project link, just where it's the single line there. So there's all sorts of fields that you can pull in FileVine that are supported by this. But I think that covers it for all the different variables that you can pull in. And in case it wasn't mentioned before, you can always come over here to the elements section and you can view your different variables, whether they be party, secret, the connected ones, or different things like that. So I hope this video was helpful.